understands what war is. The battlefield was a pit of unbridled fervor. It's the meeting point of life and death where swords and shadows are intertwined. That is where the knights born in poverty make their names. It is a place where all the knights who crave merit and glory thrive, the sacred ground. When the night comes, Gray is hiding in the stable for too long and he was disappointed for making Iron upset. And Gray was sad because Iron told him to find a place to review his actions. Tanitos is asking how Gray made Iron angry with him and Gray stated that it's not a pleasant memory. Iron told him that the only thing that matters to Gray is his merit and fame. She was mad at Gray for involving the kids in their upcoming war, and she explained that the battlefield is not a playground, but it means bloodshed and sacrifices where they prevent children from going to war. After hearing it, Gray insisted that those kids are not children anymore and he can protect them on the battlefield. Iron became mad and told Gray that the moment when knights and the army will be separated. Those kids won't have protection as they have no ability to protect themselves, and only death awaits them. Death is not a terrible thing, is it? You don't have to be so scared. Even if they die, I can make them, Gray stated, but was interrupted by Iron because the moment she heard it from Gray she was shocked. After that, he was told to get out and rethink and he was still baffled of why Iron became mad. Tanitos explained the difference between being alive and undead and Gray asked what he should do to understand everything. Tanitos advised him to go to tavern and use his magic to taste the food and become absolutely addicted. After hearing it, Gray was very excited and wanted to experience what it's like to be alive. While they were walking, Gray noticed the old man who asked for money from him. They fought with his wife because of his gambling addiction and he was about to hit his wife but Gray interrupted. The old man recognized Gray and he blamed Gray for giving him a lot of money that he couldn't resist gambling. At this point, the old man asks for more money from Gray and Gray agrees as long as he will not hurt his wife. The lady is crying and told Gray not to give the old man more money because he got his finger cut off due to gambling, and she's afraid that the old man might be beaten to death this time. The old man was annoyed and still pleaded for money and Gray handed him 2 silver coins but he was disappointed after seeing it. Gray explained that it was all the money he has but the man was irritated and wanted to punch him. Gray is observing the lady and old man with different emotions and Gray was disappointed and blamed himself and said to himself that this is not supposed to be like this because it's not the same as the night written in the book. King Paladin-5's army has advanced out of the Great Snowy Mountains and they have made their way to the territory of the Duchy of Becher. The day has finally come. Paladin-5 is currently stationed across the Great River to the west of the White City after half a month of husky marching. He has brought 40,000 troops under his direct command compared to Iron's 20,000 troops, with the supporting troops sent by the nobles from all over the nations. Iron is afraid that Paladin-5 will eventually be able to mobilize a full 100,000 troops. Once they let Paladin-5 across the river to the west, they will have no chance to defend themselves. Gregory told her that fighting a war is not just about numbers and to win the battle, they need 3 elements: the timing, location, and manpower. It happens that it's the rainy season of the Duchy of Becher, so there might be a possibility that the king may not cross the river, therefore he is not advantaged because of the weather. Before the alarm was sounded, Iron sent a people to occupy the high ground on both sides of the western river long before. All they will do is break the bank and before Paladin-5 can consolidate. They plan to crush him directly in one blow. This is the best time for them to attack and only by capturing the king alive. Tonight will be a sleepless night and Iron is asking for the help of his 2 uncles. Abby Roberts informed Iron that Gray didn't show up at the barracks after the alarm went off. At this point, Iron is still mad at Gray and she told Robert that Gray will voluntarily go to the battlefield if he really wanted to. Aside from that, Robert has something to report to Iron. Lady Shelley, who had fallen into a coma, has awakened and she asked Iron to inform her privately that little Jimmy knows the black magic of manipulating people's hearts and he is most likely not a human. If this is true, then this is no longer just a war between humans, Robert stated, which caused Iron to be puzzled. Going back to Gray, he is still in the tavern and people are wondering why he did not go to the castle after the alarm went off. While he was thinking, the cat threw him a fishbone and he was surprised and glad that the cat is already awakened. He shared with the cat about the old man and the cat explained that giving him money is not helping him at all. Gray stated that he only wants to help and comply with his vows, but he doesn't understand why it ended in the worst situation. The cat told him that the human world is very complicated and he shows some examples to Gray. He explained that Gray's vow stated that the knight needs to help but he should analyze each situation. Not all help is needed from everyone because it might cause trouble. Gray asked the cat what he should do but they can't answer him and just said that Gray is the only knight who believes in the oath of valor. One day, if Gray fails to gain the respect of others and even his lord starts to question his decision, being a knight will no longer make him happy, instead, it will make him miserable and confused. Now, the war between men is about to begin and Catherine is wondering to Grey if what will he choose. While the Duchy of Becher is preparing for the battle, the troop hears the sound of a horse's hooves. When it goes near them, they recognize that it was Grey, so they let him pass to their area. He looks right away at Lady Iron and goes directly to the highland next to the river valley. Troops are wondering why Grey is in a hurry and riding other horses aside from Tenido's. Iron is observing the river and one of her troops told her that the Silver Moon Knight arrived and that something urgent is to report to her. Iron is still thinking that Grey wanted to build his reputation on the battlefield, that's why he's participating. The troops bring the Silver Moon Knight in front of Iron and Iron asked what urgent matter he will report, but he couldn't utter anything. Iron was disappointed and just turned around. Suddenly, the man they thought that the Silver Moon Knight rushed to Iron and stabbed her. Iron was shocked as she thought that Grey betrayed her. The man in armor ordered the troops to burn all the boats and must have no way to cross the river and fight a defensive battle if they really wanted Iron to be safe. Iron realized that she was wrong. It seems like you're not happy about it. It's very easy to impersonate you, Silver Moon Knight, the man in armor said. Abby Robert told the man to let go of Lady Iron as they already burned all the ships. He let go Lady Iron and jumps to the cliff, then Robert ordered the troops to catch the impersonators. Iron is suffering in pain, so Robert doesn't want to leave her, but Iron ordered him to find the real Silver Moon Knight, Grey. Grey is outside the tavern and he's still down for being confused with the real feelings of being alive. The cat advised him to sleep, but he said Lich doesn't sleep, so it will not work on him. This is something you have to find out for yourself, the cat stated. While they are talking, several troops are hunting him and accuse that he's the one who stabs Lady Iron. Grey was shocked and tried to explain, but the troops won't let him and tied him with a chain. They bring Grey to jail and the cat came to inform him of the reason why he was arrested. This matter has caused panic in the White City and no one knows whether it is Grey or the assassin wearing his armor. Grey was mad after hearing that Lady Iron has been stabbed. Suddenly, Iron came and he was explaining that he was the real Grey. Iron is asking Grey to prove that he's the real Silver Moon Knight. How about I give you a dance? Grey stated, and after hearing it, Iron realized that he was the real Grey and the cat is wondering how Iron recognized him. Iron released Grey and Grey offered to look for the imposter, but Iron refused and ordered Grey to stay in the castle and keep an eye on Felder and little Jimmy. How about the war? Grey asked, and Iron answered that he don't need to come and that staying in the castle is her greatest favor to Grey. Everyone knows about what happened and they also know that it wasn't Grey, but no one could be sure if it was Grey under the armor. The news has spread among the people. Grey is always wearing his helmet and never revealed his true face, so no one could discern his authenticity in the first place. Many people are afraid because of this, that's why he wants Grey to stay in the castle and wait for her to come back alive. But my chivalry will not allow me to witness my lord heading off to the battlefield alone. Grey stated, causing Iron to be annoyed while saying that she doesn't need Grey's chivalry as it will not help her victory. Chivalry without victory is worthless, Iron stated, and reminded Grey to stay in the castle and not run around. After that, Grey goes to Shelley and Shelley predicts that the war against the king will be lost because of the outnumbered troops of Iron. Grey shared with Shelley his confusion and Shelley told him that his chivalry is not meaningless. Grey feels better after hearing it from Shelley. If you have a dilemma in your heart, I'd suggest you visit church since the pastor can answer questions and solve problems, Shelley advised. The pastor is scared of what happened in their city, so he wanted to leave the White City. He passed by the walls and ended up having a lump because of the hook he used. While he was standing, Grey is already at his back and he was scared when Grey suddenly spoke. The pastor asked what Grey needs and Grey said that he was confused, so he liked to seek guidance from him. After hearing it, the pastor invited him to go back to the church. After a while, there is a troop reported that the king has crossed the river. They are crossing the river at a reef-strewn beach, 10 kilometers from Becher's camp. They are now trying to bring knights and supplies to shore on rafts using militia. Iron started to panic after realizing that the king have no intention of going back, so they should not let them land at their camp. Another report came. The king's army has been spotted to the northwest and the men of the Felder family and Casper's men are mutinied and gathering around the king's army. Since Felder is under house arrest, Iron started to think about what he used for ordering his troops. Gregory told Iron to pull back to the White City, but Iron refuses because she doesn't want the people of the city to suffer. At this point, she was still positive and decided to go to the northeast to stop Paladin-5 from landing. Going back to Grey, he's confessing about his chivalry, which he once believed so strongly, but now he doesn't know whether he should continue to believe it or not. He had sworn an oath to Lady Iron to guard her against everything, but now she ordered Grey to stay in the castle at the most dangerous time. According to the oath, he should have gone to help Iron, but he couldn't disobey her order and now he's confused. The knight's oath isn't quite as literal as it seems, and he knew that he screwed everything up by strictly fulfilling it. The pastor is guessing that Grey is trying to be a great knight and make everyone accept him as a great knight. He advised Grey that there is nothing in this world that is acceptable to everyone, not even the Holy Spirit. It's normal for you to be confused about this because you can't see the real yet. Real means your heart, your own heart. The pastor said and told Gray that he should obey his own heart. Hiren ordered her troops to drive the king's army back to the river and protect the White City. The opponent is already attacking them, especially Iron Berbera. She was already wounded while the king is very confident to fight against her. Hiren is very determined to crush Bairdvi and win the battle. At that time, right or wrong, your actions themselves will demonstrate the best interpretation of chivalry. The pastor added and Gray started to think. The pastor informed Gray that the archbishop sent him a message that the king will enter the White City the next day by noon. Gray understood what the pastor said and he added one last question. What's the difference between the dead and the living? Gray questioned and the pastor answered him that the undead and the living are not different. What important is the heart, not the identity. Gray started to understand everything and he suddenly asked if the pastor is trying to sneak out because Gray saw him that he jump over the walls. The pastor explained that the king will launch a full-scale attack tonight and Iron's army will not be able to stop it. That's why he wanted to follow his heart and survive. After hearing it, Gray was rattled and rushed to Iron because he remembered his oath to protect her from any harm. The pastor wanted to come with Gray. Gray thought that the pastor will also protect Iron, but he only wanted to get out to the city and needs help because the walls are too high.